and the Islamic Jihad. And there has not been a suicide and bombing in Israel for almost 1 year now. They were having them every other day. So the world is saying Abbas is doing good. Bush never would agree to even make a phone call to Yasser Arafat. There was not one invitation to the White House of Mr. Arafat. Clinton had hosted Arafat 9 times during his presidency. During the Bush presidency, not even a phone call. However, just about a week ago, Mahmoud Abbas was invited and stood in our White House. And President Bush is making it his highest priority to put the roadmap back on target. And it appears that Mahmoud Abbas is attempting to implement the first step to the roadmap for peace. Now, let me remind you, the confirmation of the covenant calls for 3 things: settling the status of the Temple Mount, settling the status of Jerusalem, and settling the borders of Israel. That's what the confirmation of the covenant, which triggers the final 7 years, deals with. What does the roadmap for peace deal with? Settle the status of the Temple Mount, settle the status of Jerusalem, determine the final borders of the Holy Land. It is an international agreement. The confirmation of the covenant will be an international agreement led by the international leader of the world, the Antichrist. It looks like the table is set. Sharon said 2005 will be the historic year. President Bush said, I believe I will bring peace to the Middle East in my lifetime. Is the confirmation of the covenant coming? Absolutely. Will it begin in 2005? I can't promise you that. But all the pieces of the puzzle are converging today. Ariel Sharon's intention, disengagement will happen in August. You're reading about it in your newspapers. He's going to disengage from Gaza, whether the roadmap for peace is implemented or not. But they're moving steadily toward the roadmap for peace. Now, in the meantime, I'm talking about where we are tonight. The prophecy in the Bible that says that there will be a war that kills 2 billion human beings. This is Revelation 9, verse 13 through 16. And it says this war must start in the river Euphrates. Almost the entire river Euphrates is in Iraq. We have 150,000 men in Iraq at this moment in the land of the Euphrates. And your Bible says, and it has to happen before the beginning of the Great Tribulation. You can prove theologically that this war has to happen before the Great Tribulation begins. The result will be 2 billion people, 1/3 of mankind will be destroyed. James Woolsey, the CIA director under Bill Clinton, said that World War III began on 9/11. Thomas Friedman, the notice columnist for the New York Times, believes the same thing. 1.3 billion Muslims see America's war on terrorism as a war against the Muslim way of life. Many Islamists do not believe in freedom of religion. As a matter of fact, if you are in a family that practices the Muslim faith, if you try to leave it, they'll kill you. And it's happened over and over again. Mr. Zarqawi, one of the most sought-after Muslims in the world right now, has declared a war on democracy. He said, we have declared a bitter war against the principle of democracy and all those who seek to enact it. A speaker identified as Zarqawi said in an audio tape on the internet, that was January 24 of this year. President Bush said that Iran is the foremost sponsor of terrorism. This was his State of the Union speech this year in February. Today, Iran remains the world's primary state sponsor of terror, pursuing nuclear weapons while depriving its people of the freedom they seek and deserve. Our president said, whoever coddles terror or provides safe haven for terror, we're going after them. And here he is saying in his State of the Union speech this year that Iran is the #1 sponsor of terror in the world, and now Iran is threatening to become a nuclear power. I'm simply telling you, this is where we are as we sit here in South Bend, Indiana this evening. All of these events are converging right now. One more thing. Maimonides was the most revered Jewish teacher over the last 2,000 years. And Maimonides prophesied in the 11th century. He said that the Sanhedrin would be reinstituted before the return of all the Jews to Israel was complete and before Jerusalem was totally rebuilt. Now, this prophecy was given in the 11th century. The Sanhedrin was disbanded in 425 A.D. So it had been disbanded for 700 years now. But Maimonides said someday the Sanhedrin will be reconstituted, and it will happen before all the Jews get back to Israel, and all the Jews are not back yet. It will happen before Jerusalem is totally rebuilt. There is no temple on the Temple Mount yet. But Maimonides said once the Sanhedrin is reborn, Elijah will appear before the reborn Sanhedrin and would announce the identity of the Messiah. Don't look now, but on October the 13th, just past, of 2004, the Sanhedrin was reborn in Israel. On December the 6th of 2004, the Sanhedrin ascended to the Temple Mount to commemorate the rededication of the temple. Each member immersed himself in a mikvah bath, which is a ritual bath, to purify themselves, to prepare them to go up to the Temple Mount. The Sanhedrin is presently discussing issues. The February meeting was devoted to discussing where the temple should be built. Do we have to get rid of the Dome of the Rock, or can we build north of the Dome of the Rock? They had both sides presented there, and then they sent it to a subcommittee for study so that they can make that final determination. The Sanhedrin, some of the most influential members are Rabbi Chaim Richman, that I've interviewed personally several times. He is the executive director of the Temple Institute. The Temple Institute has all the furniture completed, sitting in glass cases, waiting for the completion of the temple so that they can resume animal sacrifices, so the Antichrist can show up and stop the animal sacrifices. And I'm not telling you something, this theory. I was there just 3 or 4 weeks ago. I saw this all with my own eyes. I saw the brazen altar where the animals are going to be killed. I saw the laver where the priests are instructed to watch. I saw the candlesticks. I saw the table of shewbread. I saw the altar of incense. I saw the forks they have to dip down and get the meat like the priests are supposed to do according to all the Old Testament rituals. I saw the trumpets that they're to blow on the Feast of Trumpets. I'm telling you, they are ready right now. And in February, they were studying, where are we going to build our temple? Now, you can act like all things remain the same as since our fathers fell asleep if you want to, but that's simply not true. We've never seen a day like this day. I'm not even mentioning our president signing a National ID Act on May the 11th. So all of you will soon have to have a national ID card in order to drive or fly or have a bank account or go into a federal building. That is law in the United States of America today. It's the largest leap toward the mark of the beast in my entire lifetime. So what am I here to tell you tonight? The Apostle Paul said, and that knowing the time, that now. You know, us Christians, we're really bad about thinking someday I'm going to get on fire. Someday I'm going to really be something for God. Well, the someday is over. I'm here to announce to you tonight that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer. I'm talking about June the 6th. Now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. I am here to say to you and everybody I speak to across this nation, the time for total commitment is now. The time for total mobilization of all Christians is right now. I'll never forget growing up in church, and I was very fortunate to grow up in a wonderful Christian home. But one minister came in to preach to our congregation. I was just a young teenager at the time, and he made this statement. He quoted an old reformer. The reformer had said, "It yet remains to be seen what God could do with one man totally committed to God." And I thought about that, and I thought, I wish I could someday be that person, but I probably never could be. And what he said sounded so right. But now I know it was so wrong. To try to make total commitment some kind of an exclusive thing for some superhero is wrong. Do you understand that unless you're totally committed, you can't even be saved?